Ariana Grande's Kids to Now story starts before the ponytail, before the pop girl era labels, before the internet decided it knew her personality. It starts with a theater kid from Boca Raton, Florida, small, sharp, and wired for the stage, who learned early that applause can feel like oxygen. Born June 26, 1993, Ariana grew up in a house where performance wasn't a fantasy, it was a language. She sang constantly, trained, auditioned, and treated every small opportunity like it mattered, because in that world, it does. As a child, she wasn't famous, but she was busy. Local theater, vocal coaching, the kind of schedule that turns childhood into practice. The key detail isn't she wanted to be a star. Lots of kids say that. The key detail is that she built the skill set, breath control, pitch, stamina, comedic timing, before the world even knew her name. That foundation is why her later rise looks effortless on camera. It wasn't effortless. It was rehearsed. Her first mainstream break didn't arrive through pop music. It arrived through the stage. In 2008, she joined the Broadway musical 13, a teenager performing 8 shows a week under professional pressure. Broadway is a beautiful kind of strict. You learn discipline fast or you get swallowed. That experience didn't just give her credits. It taught her how to keep her nerves quiet while her heart is racing. It taught her how to deliver the same emotion night after night and still make it feel alive. Then came the teen TV era that became her cultural before. In 2010, she stepped into Nickelodeon's Victorious as Cat Valentine, a character built for bright chaos, big reactions, and comedic innocence. It was a role that made her recognizable in bedrooms and living rooms across the world. But it also created a trap. Audiences fell in love with the character and expected the person to match. That happens to young stars more than people admit. Your job becomes a mask, and strangers start talking to the mask as if it's you. Victorious wasn't just a show. It was a pipeline. Social media was growing, fandom culture was becoming louder, and teen stars were being turned into 24/7 content. Ariana learned in real time how quickly a public image can harden. The girl who made people laugh also became the girl people felt entitled to comment on. Her voice, her look, her friendships, her body, her attitude, even her silence. You don't get to grow in private when your face is a brand. She did what most smart young performers do when they sense a ceiling. She started building an exit. While still acting, she kept singing, kept posting covers, kept proving that the voice wasn't a side hobby. When you watch early clips, the wow factor isn't just the range, it's the control. That kind of control usually comes from years of training, not sudden luck. Her vocals became the secret weapon that could carry her out of the cute TV character box and into a career with more power. But leaving a teen network brand is never as clean as it looks. Your audience wants you to stay safe, the industry wants you to stay marketable, and you, privately, want to grow up. That tension is the first real conflict in Ariana's story. She had to separate herself from Cat without losing the people who loved Cat. She had to introduce the world to Ariana the artist without triggering the "she changed" backlash that always hits young women when they stop being convenient. So the kid chapter ends on a hinge. A Broadway-trained vocalist hiding inside a Nickelodeon character, preparing to become something bigger. The world saw a funny red-haired girl on TV. Behind that, a serious performer was loading the next act like a slingshot. The transition period matters because it shows her instinct. Don't wait for permission. She took small windows, award show backstage clips, radio performances, live covers, to remind people she was a singer first. On Nickelodeon, she also got to sing in character, which was a double-edged gift. It showcased the instrument, but it still tied the instrument to a sitcom identity. When Victorious ended, she moved into Sam and Cat, keeping her in the teen TV spotlight a bit longer, while her real plan was forming off camera. Around this time, you can see the blueprint of her future brand, a voice that can do impossible runs, a playful humor that disarms interviews, and a sweetness that keeps audiences protective. But that sweetness is also a pressure. When the internet labels you tiny, cute, harmless, it can punish you the moment you show ambition. Ariana began learning the first rule of public growth. Whatever you do next, someone will miss the version of you that was easiest for them to consume. She also began building a direct relationship with fans online, posting, responding, sharing enough to feel close, but not enough to be fully known. That habit would later become a survival tool. In the early 2010s, the industry was shifting. The gatekeepers mattered less, the timeline moved faster, and a young artist could create demand before the label even knew how to package it. Ariana's early fan connection wasn't just cute, it was leverage. When Ariana finally stepped into music as the main event, the shift happened fast enough to feel like teleportation. One year she's the Nickelodeon girl with a huge voice. The next, she's on radio, on charts, on tour posters, and suddenly everyone is debating whether she's the next, this or that. That comparison game is a trap, and Ariana's smartest move was refusing to live inside it. Instead, she leaned into what was undeniably hers. A vocal style that blends old-school R&B influence with pop precision, and a tone that sounds both intimate and impossible. Her debut era introduced her as a real recording artist, not a TV crossover. The early hits carried a bright, youthful sweetness, but you could already hear the ambition underneath. Stacked harmonies, big belts, playful runs that weren't there to show off but to decorate emotion. And because she'd spent years performing for cameras, she understood branding. She didn't just release songs, she released a version of herself that audiences could recognize in a thumbnail. The soft glam, the high ponytail, the wink of humor, the "I'm tiny but I'm in control" energy. Then the rise accelerated into a kind of pop stardom treadmill. Singles kept landing, collaborations multiplied, tours grew, and the audience expanded beyond former Nickelodeon viewers into mainstream listeners who didn't care about Cat Valentine. That's a pivotal moment for any former child star, the day your new fans don't even know your old story. Ariana reached that point quickly, and it freed her. She could evolve because she wasn't only transitioning, she was becoming. But the treadmill has a price. The bigger your platform gets, the less your mistakes stay small. Ariana's pop years were defined by relentless visibility. Performance clips turned into debates, lyrics turned into clues, relationships turned into story arcs the public felt entitled to narrate. The internet didn't just watch her career, it tried to write it. Every new era arrived with expectations. Be more mature but not too sexual, be more confident but not arrogant, be more honest but don't overshare. It's a maze designed for people to get lost. And Ariana, like many young women in the spotlight, learned that the public loves extremes. If you're sweet, they call you fake. If you're bold, they call you a problem. If you're quiet, they call you distant. So she did the sustainable thing. She kept working. She became the kind of performer who can silence a room with a microphone and a clean note, because skill is the one argument the internet can't meme away. This era also shows her evolution as a live artist. Studio perfection is one thing, touring night after night is another. Ariana's concerts became a place where fans felt safe to be emotional, where her music functioned like a diary the crowd could sing back to her. That feedback loop, artist to audience to artist, can be healing, but it can also become pressure, because now your survival feels connected to how many strangers need you to keep showing up. As the years stacked, her image matured. The songs became sharper, the production darker, the lyrics more adult, and the Disney kid narrative faded. But maturity in pop culture is rarely treated as simple growth. It's treated like a controversy waiting to happen. Ariana's confidence became a storyline. Her sexuality became a headline. Her boundaries became attitude. That's the cost of being a young woman who refuses to apologize for existing loudly. And then, Right when her career looked unstoppable, life began to punch through the pop machine in ways no branding can control. This is the turning point that makes the Kids to Now timeline feel like a real human story instead of a glossy montage. Because the truth is, you can schedule albums and tours, but you can't schedule grief, fear, or trauma. And once those enter the timeline, the entire meaning of fame changes. The stage stops being just a stage. It becomes a place where you're trying to be strong while the world is still spinning too fast. There's also a technical reason her rise stuck. Ariana didn't just have a good voice. She treated it like an athlete treats a body. Warm-ups, control, dynamic range, and an understanding of how to use softness as power. Her best moments often aren't the loudest belts. They're the quiet lines where she lands a melody like a confession. That musical identity helped her move through different pop eras without feeling like she was chasing trends. You can track that growth across her projects. The early romantic pop glow, then a bolder, more dangerous confidence, and later a more experimental, atmospheric sound that proved she wasn't locked into one formula. Each shift was a risk because fans often punish change. Ariana kept changing anyway, because the only way to stay alive in pop is to evolve faster than the stereotypes trying to freeze you. So the Rise chapter ends with a tension. Ariana is at peak visibility, peak power, peak cultural presence, yet the ground under her is starting to shake. The next era won't be defined by chart positions alone. It will be defined by how she survives the moments the public can't turn into a cute caption. The moment Ariana's story stops being pop star growing up and becomes something heavier has a date attached to it, because the world watched it happen with her. In May 2017, after a concert in Manchester, a terrorist attack took lives and injured many more. The details are devastating, and the most important truth is simple. This wasn't celebrity drama. It was tragedy. For Ariana, it meant carrying a kind of fear and grief that doesn't fit neatly into interviews or lyrics. What followed could have broken her public life completely. Instead, she chose to show up for her community in a way that changed how people saw her. She organized the One Love Manchester benefit concert, bringing artists together and raising money for victims and families. In a culture that often treats celebrities as products, that choice revealed a person. A young woman who didn't run from responsibility, even while she was still processing shock. That benefit concert became an emotional peak because it wasn't a comeback moment. It was a human moment. Watching her on stage then, you can feel the difference. The voice is still powerful, but the purpose is heavier. The crowd isn't just cheering, it's healing out loud. And Ariana's role isn't just performer, it's witness. That experience re-anchors the entire Kids to Now timeline. The Nickelodeon girl who made people laugh is now standing in front of grief, trying to create a safe space with music because it's the only tool she knows how to use at that scale. After that, the speed of her life didn't slow down, but the meaning of everything changed. She kept making music, but the songs started sounding like coping mechanisms, sharp and brutally honest. Her work began to function like a diary written in real time. The parts where she's trying to be brave, the parts where she's tired, the parts where she's convincing herself she'll be okay. And the public watching started hearing what they had missed before, that behind the glamorous image was a nervous system that had been through too much. Then came another grief that deepened the story. In 2018, rapper Mac Miller, who had been a significant presence in her life, died. Ariana publicly mourned him, and the internet, as usual, tried to turn that mourning into commentary. But grief doesn't care about fandom. It doesn't care about shipping. It just arrives. In her music from that period, you can hear the collision of sadness and survival, the way she keeps moving because stopping feels like falling. This is where Ariana's resilience becomes the central theme. Resilience doesn't mean she was fine. It means she kept choosing the next step, even when the next step hurt. She released work that sounded like rebuilding in public, honoring pain without letting pain become her entire identity. She learned to hold contradictions at the same time, joy and exhaustion, gratitude and anger, love and distance. That emotional complexity is what makes the now era feel earned. She didn't get older into peace by accident. She fought her way into it. And the now chapter isn't just about music. It's about control. Ariana expanded into business, building a brand presence beyond songs. She also stepped into new creative spaces, acting again, voice work, and eventually the role that signals a full-circle return to the stage kid inside her, being cast as Glinda in Wicked. It's the kind of casting that feels symbolic. The Broadway-trained teenager who once learned discipline under stage lights is now entering a massive musical film with the kind of spotlight she understands, but on her own adult terms. What makes this ending satisfying is the loop. Her earliest identity was performance as joy. Her darkest period forced performance to become comfort. Now performance becomes craft again, less about proving herself, more about expressing what she's learned. The tone is steadier. The public sees less chaos and more intention. She's not trying to be the perfect pop princess. She's building longevity, choosing projects, protecting privacy, and letting the work speak louder than the commentary. So when you cut from Kid Ariana to Now Ariana, the biggest difference isn't the aesthetic. It's the center of gravity. The Kid era was about being chosen. The Rise era was about proving. The Now era is about choosing. Choosing boundaries, choosing softness, choosing art that feels honest, choosing a life that can survive the internet's noise. And the open ending is simple. Ariana's story keeps evolving, but it no longer feels like it's being driven by the crowd. For the first time, it feels like it belongs to her. And that's why this timeline matters. It isn't a straight line. It's a performer transforming for survival, until survival becomes purpose, and purpose becomes peace that feels hers again at last.